Hello everybody, this is the 8th lecture of the IELTS. Today we are going to take how to answer the multi-choices questions. Before we start, they usually give you comprehensive explanation in the paragraph. What I mean precisely, you need to choose them comprehensively. So, let's start to see. Complete each sentence with the correct ending A to H below. The statements are: for adult language learners, an informal setting is better than. 2. It's obviously the case that children learn language as a result of. 3. Adults who have a natural talent for new languages are generally. 4. Confident people learn languages fast because they are not afraid of. 5. Middle-aged language learners are often unaware that they are. Then you have the choices: A. Taking a negative approach. B. Demonstrating an unusual ability. C. Worrying about the views of others. D. Being in a classroom situation. E. Losing all sense of identity. F. Producing errors in front of others. G. Moving to another country. And H. Living with other speakers of the language. As we can see here, we have 5 sentences, but here we have 8 choices. That means we have 3 extra choices. Do not forget, the choice you just pick it up, you just take it, do not retake it unless you have a nota bene, that means a note, and here we don't have a note. Okay, let's go on, let's start. It's about the passage "Talk your way into another language." Number 1. For adult language learners, an informal setting is better than. Then we have a gap to choose from: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Let's read. Go into a coffee bar, sit down, relax, and try to talk to someone. It may look to others as though you are wasting your time. It may even feel that way to you. But so long as you are doing this in a foreign country, where you speak the language badly or not at all, you are probably acquiring a new language better than you ever could by formal study with a teacher and a textbook. Okay, let's reread the last sub-sentence, the last 4 lines. You are probably acquiring a new language better than you ever could by formal study with a teacher and a textbook. It says here, number 1, for adult language learners, an informal setting is better than. The informal setting, what's the informal setting? An informal setting, that means you are not in a class, which means a coffee bar here, talking to someone, and also which means also says by but so long as you are doing this in a foreign country where you speak the language badly or not at all, you are probably acquiring a new language. Acquiring here means you are gaining, you are getting, you are taking up, starting, learning a new language better than you ever could by formal study with a teacher and a textbook. Okay, let's say here: A, taking a negative approach. No. B, demonstrating an unusual ability. It doesn't talk about abilities and capabilities. C, worrying about the views of others. It has never been about the views here. D, being in a classroom situation. Okay, we will go back to it. E. Losing all sense of identity. No, it doesn't talk about identity or senses. F. Producing errors in front of others. The main idea is not about producing errors. G. Moving to another country. Even it's mentioned here, but it's not the main idea. H. Living with other speakers of the language. It doesn't talk about living with them. It talks about communicating with them. It's totally different. Okay, D says being in a classroom situation. Let's go back to the last 4 lines. You are probably acquiring a new language better than you ever could by formal study. Formal study? Where is the formal study? You don't take the formal study in the street. You take it in a classroom with a teacher and a textbook. Okay, so the answer here is D, and this is explained in the passage comprehensively. Okay. 2. It's obviously the case that children learn language as a result of. It talks about kids, children, or it might be infants, also babies. Okay, let's read. The social situation properly used beats the classroom hollow. It's full of native speakers asking you questions, telling you to do things, urging you to take an active part in conversation, and using gestures freely to make their intentions clearer, just like your parents did when you were an infant. So plunge in. All you have to do is talk back. Here the main idea talks about children. Talks about it's not talking about children precisely, but it's like a simile for those who are what we call new learners, are just like kids, because also in English, when we talk about new learners as teachers, I mean, we say our kids, my kids. That means my students. It means here it's not an insult. No, it's not at all. But it means the new learners, freshmen, fresh learners also, we call them. Okay, so here the answer will be H. Living with other speakers of the language. Why? Let's go back to it. The social situation. Social situation, that means living with others. Properly used beats the classroom hollow. It beats the classroom. It's full of native speakers. That means social situation with native speakers. Asking you questions, telling you to do things, urging you to take an active part in conversation, and using gestures freely to make their intentions clearer, just like your parents did when you were an infant. Okay, so it explains everything here about new learners are just like children, learn language as a result of living with other speakers of the language. Okay. 3. Adults who have a natural talent for new languages are generally, it talks about adults. The proposition that infants can acquire languages by prolonged exposure to them is self-evidently true. It's the only way available to them. Older children and teenagers who move to a different country can pick up a new language with a speed that baffles their parents. But in adulthood, here is the answer, here is the key. We find ourselves envying our rare contemporaries who can still acquire languages easily. Let's go back to analyze it. But in adulthood, we find ourselves envying our rare contemporaries. Envying, that means to be jealous of those, let's say, those few people who can acquire the languages easily, who can learn the languages easily. So, in this case, it means they have a special talent. Those talented people. And if we link into the answer, it will be B, demonstrating an unusual ability. Why? Because we envy our rare contemporaries. That means they have a special, an unusual, a unique ability. Okay, now let's go to 4. By the way, 4 is in 2 paragraphs, so I will read both of them and answer it. Okay. Confident people learn languages fast because they are not afraid of. Confident people learn languages fast because they are not afraid of. There may be biological reasons why the capacity to learn languages falls away with age, even more than the capacity to learn other things. The brain may be designed to do its best language learning in infancy, and then redeploy its resources at puberty. But psychological factors play a big part. As we get older, we get more self-conscious, more inhibited, more dependent on other people's judgments. This process may undermine our capacity to acquire a new language, because language underpins our sense of personality and identity. We fear to make mistakes in it. Here is the key. We fear to make mistakes in it. Let me reread the last sentence, before the last sentence, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last 6 lines. This process may undermine our capacity to acquire a new language, because language underpins our sense of personality and identity. We fear to make mistakes in it. That means when we make mistakes, we don't acquire the language easily. Let's go on with the second graph. Stephen Krashen, an expert on second language acquisition, makes a strong case for the dominance of psychological factors. According to Mr. Krashen, people with outgoing personalities do best at learning a new language because they have the ego to make the necessary mistakes involved in learning. That means people who make mistakes and don't feel shy can acquire the language easily, which means F, producing errors in front of others, is very clear here. Confident people learn languages fast because they are not afraid of producing errors in front of others. Okay, let's go to the last sentence. Middle-aged language learners are often unaware, that means they don't know, that they are. Okay, let's go on. When we want to learn a new language in midlife for reasons of career or curiosity, we commonly but wrongly tackle it with the sense of doing something difficult and unnatural. We turn to grammar books and compact discs expecting a fight. We are going to struggle within the language. We will master it unless it defeats us. And with that sort of attitude, it probably will. That means it will defeat us. All other things being equal, the best learner will be the person who is the most relaxed in conversation and the most self-confident. Let's go back to the first paragraph. When we want to learn a new language in midlife for reasons of career or curiosity, we commonly but strongly, here's the key, tackle it with the sense of doing something difficult and unnatural. That means A, taking a negative approach. Okay, where is the word approach? Approach, the word, is not mentioned here precisely because it's explained. We are going to struggle with the language, we will master it unless it defeats us, and with that sort of attitude it probably will. It's mentioned in the middle of this paragraph. It says we turn to grammar books, this is an approach to study grammar, and compact discs expecting a fight. This means the approach of teaching or learning something. Here is the key. Okay, we come to the end of our 8th episode or our 8th lecture here of the IELTS. Please, if you like this video, please just press subscribe. If you have questions, any questions, please just write them in the comments, and if you have any criticism, please just write it in the comments too. Thank you very much. That was Haidar ALcasseer with you. Thanks.